good evening, good morning, everyone. Hi, welcome to our show, RLA Sister Weekly Live. Everyone is welcome. Hi, everyone. How are you guys? My name is Limpho, and I will let every single person introduce themselves. So, Shayla, do you want to go first?
Okay, this is Shayla, SiSTAR Shayla. Hi everyone. Habari. That means hello in Swahili.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Sister Dajanna.
Hi.
Hi,
Sister Tosin, hi.
hi everyone. Sister Tosin from Nigeria.
And Sister Adwoa.
Hi, everyone. This is Sister Adwoa from Ghana.
Hi. So, welcome to our show, everyone. Today's topic is a very difficult one. So in South Africa this week we had a very it's I think this is something that affects everyone in all the countries, but we had a man shoot his wife and then shoot himself, and afterwards, because they were both doctors working in the same hospital, and he shot himself and his wife because of jealousy. So, which brings me to today's topic, which is domestic violence, and I think this is something that, for me, it's quite tough. So I don't know how I'm going to host it, but I'm going to try my best. Um, I think we have grown up in households that where domestic violence is something that is normalized, and we have both men and women that abuse, mostly men abusing women and children, but we do find in other cases where you'll find women abusing men, and that is a sad reality, unfortunately, where people, if they feel like they're powerful, they will take advantage of the minority. um yeah, I think, Sister D, you spoke about a similar incident that happened. Is it in the US or?
Okay, well, what happened is that at the beginning of the year, a young DJ in
Mm,
Bogota, a 23-year-old woman, was seen with her internet boyfriend. They had been talking online for about a
mm,
year or something. Um, but she didn't know that he had a wife and three children in Texas. And he had been, I guess, sending her money and things. But I don't know if his family was about to find out about what was happening. But he came here and he unalived her. They found her, unfortunately, in the trash inside of a suitcase, and he tried to escape. They found him in Panama, and
yo.
he is in jail right now. They took him to court here in Colombia, and a lot of things came out to light that she wasn't the only girl that he was talking to. He had like weird fetishes with women online, and that he was very abusive towards his family. He stole money from his family. He lied to the girl's family and said that they were going to get married and move into an apartment. They
Mm,
found out that he rented an Airbnb for 3 days and left. So he never really had the intention of marrying her, I think. They
mm,
also discovered that he had hired a private investigator on her because he was jealous. He was mad because she was a pretty girl. Um, she was a pretty and young girl. She was becoming popular on the rave DJ scene in Bogota, and she had a lot of male friends, and he didn't like that.
oh
So
no.
yes, apparently with the private investigator, I guess he found out that she was talking to other men, and I guess he felt like he was being scammed, but that still doesn't allow you to come and unalive someone.
Mm,
And
mm,
unfortunately, these types of things happen a lot in Colombia. This is a country where I feel like men don't really respect women like they should. And there are too many cases of women dying, of women being abused,
Mm,
sexually harassed, or, even raped. There's
mm,
a lot of those things that happen. Recently, a 19-year-old girl was at home. Some guy came and knocked on the door acting like he was some type of like cable guy, but he literally went in the house, sexually assaulted her, and then left. And to this
no.
day, they haven't caught that man.
Yeah. It's
It's
actually.
it's such a the numbers are increasing at such a high rate, and
Mm,
it is documented that Black women are, like, unfortunately, they die, or they're unalived by domestic partners of any other
mm,
woman in any other racial category, and
mm,
it is it's there's a lot of factors that go into it, but
yes.
one thing that we have to understand is what is domestic violence. A lot of people don't really understand
Mm. I think we lost Sister Adwa a bit there, but going back to what she was saying, it's alarming the amount of Black women that are unalived at the
Yes,
hands or pass on at the hands of their partners.
yes,
It's unacceptable, and it makes me question, Sister Tosin and Sister D and Sister Shayla. It makes me question whether what perpetuates it. Is it the patriarchal backgrounds that
Hello,
we grow up in?
can you guys hear me again?
Hi, yes. Yes, we were actually just
Hello.
discussing now that what would what perpetuates the high percentage of Black women that pass on at the hands of their partners. Is it the patriarchal backgrounds that we as Black people come from? Is it the authority they feel they have over women? What is it exactly?
Okay, I think I will go first.
Yes, please do.
So now, just like in other African countries, and I want to
Mm,
say that it is not just in African countries. Domestic violence is a general topic, it's a general thing. But I think it's very prominent in African countries. Now, about 90% of people who experience domestic violence are usually females, like women in Nigeria. Maybe 60% or the little remaining percent for men, because there are also women who also abuse their man. Okay, so now I actually want to believe that it's part of the deep societal culture that has presented a woman as a property. In some culture, women are seen as property. In Nigeria, yes, if you're going to the deep root of it, you'll see that women are regarded as property. And when you pay bride price, you do all the marriage right. You're expected that the wife, it is expected that everything you command the wife to do, she should do it. She should keep quiet while you talk. She's not even expected to be saying her place is in the kitchen, where the husband and the people are gisting and discussing. Our right is to bring out food for them, let them eat. I'm talking about the roots of domestic violence. So it is expected that a woman should listen and not to talk or question the man's authority. So if we are going to trace it down, it is also allowed that, talking about the culture, right? So it's allowed that the man beat his wife or hit his wife just to correct her. It's because it's culture, yes. So it is actually believed that when the man hit the wife, the man is correcting her because it belongs to the man, and the man can actually do that. It's not questioned. The man can give her slap. He can slap her if the need, if there is need for that. So So I will actually say that it's can be traced back to the cultural, what is social societal, to the society, what is generally acceptable in the society. Like in a traditional setting, the patriarchal system allows the man to beat his wife just to correct her. So if you go to your parents' house as a lady and say, my husband is beating me, you'll be asked to go back there and go and be a responsible wife, go and be an obedient wife and listen to your husband, take instruction and stay there. So sometimes a lot of women die in the course of enduring. So parents will tell them, they always preach endurance. Even when you go to your spiritual leaders, like the pastors, the Muslim, they will always talk about endurance. Go to your husband's house. You cannot leave your husband's house. Go there, and you keep enduring. And unfortunately, a lot of women as that because of this domestic violence, which I can say can be traced to the culture, that is the patriarchal system that believes that the man has the authority over the wife and he can tell the wife, sit down there, keep quiet, and the wife has no audacity to question the man. So that is what I can say about that.
I totally agree with Tosin. I mean, just look at the images of the cavemen. You know,
Mm.
they pulled women from their hair. You know, if we go back to religious things, why
Mm.
is the woman a serpent? Why is the woman a sneaky thing? You know, and if you break it down to language, um, Spanish is gender based, right? It's male and female. Yes.
Mm.
So tell me why the serpent has a feminine meaning, la serpiente, and not el serpiente.
Mm.
Yes. It's las
Mm.
serpientes and not los serpientes. It makes me think a lot about those things, it has been normalized in society. Just looking at social media, you know, there's so much violence on social media, and they give it to us on a daily basis to where we're like, oh, someone passed away again. Oh, you know, it becomes normalized. To the point
Mm.
that, you know, so many women are passing away that they've added a new category to it. It's called feminicide now. It's not
Mm.
just a regular homicide, it's a feminicide now. And
Mm.
it happens a lot in Colombia. And I do agree as well. There are women who are abusive as well towards their children, towards their partner or their mate. Um, I've seen a lot of cases. My own cousin, who was dating, her partner is a woman, and then come to find out she was putting her hands on my cousin. And I didn't even know this. Like, you wouldn't even be able to tell because my cousin is a woman that goes to work every day, and she dresses well, and she has a great job, and so did her ex and everything, you know. It's a front, like we say in English. It's a front, you know. It's a mask that they wear.
Mm. Mm.
And you know, I found out like from another cousin that her girlfriend was putting her hands on her, and I told her like, hey, do I need to like put my hands on your girlfriend? I told her, don't, you know, I grew up in America. We don't play that. I told her, we don't play that. I don't care how much you love her. Do not, you know, and I'm thinking this is a cousin of mine who I look up to, who's a person
Mm.
that to me, from the outside looking in, she looks very strong. She looks responsible, like she has everything together. And then come to find out that girl was putting her hands on her. We had a talk. I said, I never want to see that girl again because if I do, then you already know. And they did break up. They did break up. She had the strength to leave her alone. So I'm happy that happened. She moved
Yeah.
on. You know, I just feel like she had to talk to someone but it does stem from the patriarchy. Going back to what you asked,
Mm,
men believe that they are the ruler of all, and humans at
mm,
that believe they are the ruler of all, when the only ruler is above us, as we say, or the universe, for whatever
yeah.
everyone believes in this podcast.
Mm, mm. It also goes back to what Sister Tosin was saying, that the whole endurance thing. Um, we had, there's a phrase in Zulu that says, umfazi uyabekezela. Basically what it means is, as a woman, you have to endure, right? There's even another phrase in Sesotho that says, "Mosadi o tshwara thipa ka bohaleng," which basically translates to, a woman would, a knife, a woman holds the knife on the sharp end of the knife, right? And those are things that, I feel women are raised in African families, being told that as a woman, you have to withstand certain behaviors. You have to, you have to be a woman. Stand for your household, stand for your marriage, fight for your marriage, and the whole thing of, if you leave a relationship, you're seen as a failure. I think that's another contributing factor, because sometimes a woman will withstand abuse simply because they don't want to go home, where they'll be told, you failed at marriage, go back. Some fathers literally will take their daughter's hands and be like, yeah, that's how marriage is. Marriage is not easy. Go back to your husband. Even if she cries and she goes back home and she says, this man is beating me up every single night, and he's raping me, and he's doing one, two, three, four. The mom and the dad will be like, yeah, that's how life is. That's how marriage is. Go back.
A
And
lot of
and
times, though,
again,
that piece right there is based on economics, though. There are many different aspects of why that is happening. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, 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 it's fine. It's fine. Yes, I agree with you, but in some states, it's not even a matter of that. It's not a matter of money. Sometimes it's a matter of respect, right? Um, so I mean, now we are all outgrowing it, and I see a lot of households changing, and we're becoming more modern, and that's amazing. But in some families, especially rural families, if you come from for example, a royal family, right? Once you leave home, so we have this thing where if you get married, you leave with the kist. It's like a so that's seen as a representative that once you've left home, you leave with that box. You are not going to come back home. So you're leaving with your birthright and everything, and you're going to your in-laws. That means you're going to die there, right? So you're not going to come back home at all. So if you do come back home, then it's seen as though you have, for lack of a better word, failed, right? That is why. And then there's the whole thing of dowry. Do we bring the cows back? All of those things. And the families have agreed. There's been a thing happening between the families, and there's a connection now, and you want to break that up. So that's why it's easier for the family to send you back to your in-laws rather than deal with the consequences of you coming back home, if I'm making sense.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, you touched on what I was talking about in regards to the economics of it. A lot of times,
Mm.
it has, them sending them back, the woman back, wasn't just based upon, uh, her making her endure. A lot of times it's because the man has in his family has have paid the bride price. Here in Ghana, we call it bride price or dowry or whatever
Yeah,
term you use.
yeah.
And if you come back home, that means the family has to give that back. And many times the family does not, they don't have it. So it's in I don't know, here in Ghana, if there are issues, traditionally the families are supposed to come together, sit down, and try to help them work out those issues. Somebody said something about there's not. I think somebody was saying that there's no genders, and I mean there's gender identities in the Spanish language or something like that. Here in Ghana,
Yeah,
there are
Sister
no
G.
clear gender, like in the language, there's no distinctions between genders. And traditionally, and I'm Ashanti, the Ashanti culture, it was a matrilineal tribe. And so, the power, everything went through the mother. So you did, traditionally you didn't have that. Now there are issues because of religion and Christianity being introduced into the culture, and now it's become very patriarchal, and the patriarchy is very, very, very strong. So there's a lot
Mm,
of shifts and changes because of the introduction of certain religious ideologies.
yeah, yeah. I mean, going back to I'm sorry if somebody wanted to talk, but going back to religion and how patriarchal religion is, w- so in terms of in us in our cultures, ne, where we also had a very matriarchal type of culture, right? Until religion came, and then it was a whole thing of, how in the Bible it's also allowed, abuse is allowed, even if a man has slaves, it says you must, put your slaves in order and all of that stuff. That's the stuff that's in the Bible. So when the missionaries came, they kind of changed a lot of parts of our culture, because a woman has always been seen as the, I don't want to say the leader, but because of how much power a woman has, because she's
Hmm.
a man with a womb, she's the creator of life. We've always been seen as the leaders,
Hmm.
the power force in our families. And then when religion came, that all went downhill. So I 100% agree with you that religion has been a very big factor in perpetuating abuse and perpetuating patriarchy and perpetuating the whole gender roles, because we didn't even have gender roles before religion came. There was never that whole thing of this is a man's role, this is a woman's role, this is a woman belongs in the kitchen, a man belongs. We've never had that until religion came and dictated for us that, hey, as a man you're supposed to lead, you're supposed to stay here, and a woman's place is in the kitchen. That's it. So
I
yeah,
think we actually have that
but
in Nigeria before
yes.
Christianity came in. You know, Nigerians, most people are farmers. Now, because you are a man, you're
Mm,
expected to be able to work very hard in the farm, while the women are allowed to do some little jobs. But the most important aspect that a woman must function is always in the kitchen and childbearing.
mm,
So it has always
mm,
there has always been gender rules. So if you have a male child, there's a way you always remind the boy that you are a boy, you are a boy. Remember that you're a boy. So there's this
Hmm.
emphasis on the male gender in Nigeria that you're a boy, you're a man. Oh, how will you be? Even if you try to weep or you're sad about something, people will always remind you that you are a boy in Nigeria, even before the advent of Christianity or the Islamic religion. So there's always been gender rule in Nigeria. So because you are a man, there are some things you should do. You're not even expected to go near the kitchen. You are expected to come back, even if you and your wife had actually went to the farm to labor and do some things. You're expected to come back home, sit under the tree, take palm wine and gist with your friend while your wife goes into the kitchen, prepare the food. Your wife prepares the food and bring it back to you. So it is never expected that a man go near the kitchen to cook or do some things or raise the children. So it is expected that the women perform some certain roles while the man are allowed to. Even when it comes to trading, selling stuffs at the market, there are some things that you should sell as a man. In Nigeria, especially Yoruba culture, you will hardly see a man selling pepper because it is not expected of a man to sell things like that. So a man would rather do some professions, so some trades. Let me use some professions. You see the male gender there, where you see the female gender there. Now talking about the cultural setting before the advent of modern and westernization and everything, there are some roles that a man will perform. You can't see a woman doing blacksmithing job or doing fishing. These are gender roles in Nigeria. A woman will go to the stream to fetch water, wash the clothes of the family, cook the food, help the man while harvesting. Women always harvest while the man plant the yam, the woman will harvest. So there has always been gender role in Nigeria.
I think,
Can, can
Sister Adwoa, I want us to talk about. Sorry, I'm so sorry for cutting you off, but I'm such a solution-based person, right? Uh,
mhm.
I don't like discussing problems without solutions. What what is the mental state of somebody who's going through who's in an abusive relationship? Because I think somebody raised this point earlier that it's not easy for you to just tell them leave the relationship. Also, it's not easy to recognize that they're in an abusive relationship. I think Sister D spoke about how her cousin was being abused by the partner and they didn't know. So
Right.
if now I have somebody close to me in that who's in that setting, how do I, what type of support can I give that person?
Yeah,
Mm,
that's a great question. So I wanted to just finish what I was saying before I dropped off earlier, and I was talking. I
yes.
wanted to kind of talk about what does domestic violence look like, because a lot of people don't
Mm,
know what it really is, and there's a lot of behaviors that
mm,
we do in relationships that are actually abusive, but we don't realize it because we've seen it so often. It's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. So if you Google the power and control wheel, it is a wheel that they used. It was devised for domestic violence survivors to help them understand what it is they experience and how they got to where they were. So it's the power and control wheel, and it specifies what is abusive. And if you and I use it when I'm working with survivors and even in couples, and I make people sit down and look at it from both perspectives. Look at it from, abuse that you receive, and also be self-reflective and look at if you also were doing some things that were abusive. Okay. Because a lot of times the person that we see as the abuser, they may be reacting to some behavior that this person we see as the survivor was doing. So it kind of goes, both ways. So we have to be very clear that, we are not, doing behaviors that could be seen as abusive as well. So, but to your question specifically, um, first and foremost, don't tell a person what to do. Don't tell a person just leave. It's not that easy for many people. And we were talking about your cousin that was in the abusive relationship, and you were noting that she was very successful, she was smart, all these great things about her. And abusers generally go for people like that. They go for people who are successful and smart, and they because it's a challenge for them. They try to break them down. Usually, abusers are people who are very, very self-conscious, don't have a lot of self-esteem, and you'll see that they a lot of times will have different partners, just like the person you were talking about, the guy that came in unalive the young lady. They found out he had different partners. And his wife, I would bet, man, I'm not a betting person, but I bet money she was somebody that was very demure, or very just very calm, wouldn't fight back, whatever. Those are usually the people that they marry, but they will cheat with someone who's very successful and seem to have it all together, because they take that as a challenge. And when they can't knock them down, or if they can't, make them feel, bad, they sometimes will go to the extreme of unaliving that person because they can't dominate. It's all domestic violence against another person is usually about dominance. It's about power. That's why they call it the power and control wheel, because it's about power and gaining control over another person. So, so when they feel that they are not doing that, or that person could destroy whatever they've built, with this wife or girlfriend or whatever, they will do some extreme things, and a lot of times it's unaliving that person. Um, Many times don't judge a person that's in a domestic violence situation. That's like number two. Don't tell them what to do, number one. And number two, do not judge, because you have not been in that person's shoes. And I hear a lot of times, and I hear this from men a lot, when we're talking about patriarchy, and women get caught up in the patriarchy as well, and will repeat things that men are saying and make other women feel bad. We need sisters to stop doing that, because you're just perpetuating the cycle. And so you hear them say, well, she just needed to choose better. She just chose wrong. Nobody starts off being a jerk. You meet somebody, you get their representative. You feel like, if you're coming into a situation honorably, honest, being your true self, you're expecting the other person to do so as well. But an abuser knows what they need to do in order to pull the fish in, to get you in. And so by the time you realize that this person is not, the person you thought they were, a lot of times your heart and your finances, you've had children with them, all these things, you're tied up in this person. So walking away isn't so easy. And a lot of times too, a lot of women have to stay because it's safer to stay than it is for her to leave. Because she knows this person. And a lot of times, a lot of women stay because, especially if they have children, it's just easier to stay in it than to walk away, because he may unalive her. He may unalive those children. And and it happens all the time. So sometimes, you're like, why didn't she just leave? Because she can't. She can't, because maybe even financially he has her tied. You don't know all the details of a person's situation. So those are the top things I would say. Don't judge. Do not judge. You don't know. And a lot of times, people that are survivors, they don't tell other people, because, like, your cousin, they feel like, gosh, I was this person, I was, smart, I was this and this and this. They're going to feel judged. They don't tell anybody because they're beating themselves up, because it's like, how could I allow myself to get in this type of situation? I was always very smart. I always, I usually could, read people well, but some people are just better at the game than others. And so, you get caught up. And it's hard, it's embarrassing to go to people and say, hey, I'm in this situation. I'm being abused, because they know people are going to judge them. And you were talking about, it was a same-sex relationship. Actually, female same-sex relationships have the highest rates of domestic violence than any other group. So there's so many factors that go into this. But, like I said, the two things, just make sure that you're not judging. Make sure that you let that person know that you're there. You might even discuss a safety plan. Hey, if it gets too bad, I'm here for you. Let's discuss what we will do if and when you decide to leave. And I'm there for you. Let them know that you're there. Because a lot of times they don't feel like they have support. Okay, find your local domestic violence organization. Even here in Ghana, they have a whole domestic violence brand new building, beautiful building. It's got a shelter in it and everything. A lot of people aren't even aware that it's there, but because it's what I do, I went hunting for it. And so they have it's a government-run shelter, but then there's also a nonprofit called Pearl Safe Haven, and they have a domestic shelter. But it's always so full. And then we also have to get out of the idea that it's cultural. Like, I don't like to say this behavior is cultural. I believe that there are just bad people within the culture. And what makes a person an abuser is, a lot of times, this is what they grew up with and they think it's normal. They were abused themselves. I think it's a choice, because there's a whole bunch of us that are walking around that were abused, but we don't go around abusing. You decide how you're going to, deal with your own trauma. And a lot of times people just, don't know how to deal with their trauma, and they just repeat the cycle. So I like to get away from the language of, oh, that's an abuser. They're dealing with stuff and they have not dealt with it well. So that's my spiel. Everybody got so quiet. Any questions?
We were
You were
listening.
rapping. That's why nobody, everyone was
Yes.
just listening to you.
Huh?
You
Good.
were spitting bars. I don't. I don't think there's anything else to add after that. Yeah, I think this was a very emotional topic. Is everyone okay? Sister
Oh,
D, Shayla,
can
are you
I
guys
add one
okay?
more thing? Can I add one more thing too?
Yes.
I'm so sorry because I'm very passionate about this topic because it's something that I focus on in my practice. But I specialize in emotionally manipulative abuse, which most commonly people say is narcissistic abuse, but we don't like to use the term narcissistic because we don't have we don't know that individual. This is why I said I don't like to call people abusers because we don't know these individuals that are doing this. They are somehow a victim or a survivor themselves, but we don't want to label people a narcissist because that is a medical diagnosis and only a professional
Yes.
can be that diagnosis. But we like to use the term emotionally manipulative, and that is like the new buzz word nowadays and so forth. And so it's gotten so bad that even, legislators and, law enforcement are understanding that that is a major issue too. So, you know, domestic violence isn't just physical, violence. It's mental and emotional torture as well.
And
Yes.
I honestly
Um.
think the mental portion of it is probably the strongest abuse.
It
The
is.
physical is quick, and the
Mhm.
mental part, it has really lasting effects on you. It can change you
Absolutely.
really. Yeah, so I think
Mhm.
sometimes as we talk about domestic violence too, one of the things a lot of people shy away from is just abuse in general. So, for example, the rape
Yeah.
culture, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be through date rape or something like that. That is still domestic violence. It's
It is.
still domestic violence,
Mm.
because you are entering a space that someone told you no.
Mhm.
Um, and so for those sisters, Sister Adwa, how do they heal from that? What are steps that they can take
Mhm.
in order to A, recognize that this happened to you, B, be, public and outspoken about it if they choose to be that way? And how do
Mhm.
they, get back to their level, what's considered normal?
Right. Okay. That's a really good question too. One thing that I say that we have to look at prevention and not just reacting. And when I talk about prevention, we have
Mm.
to teach our girls, sister, cousin, girl, whatever young girls are in your cipher, teaching them to
Yeah.
be connected to their bodies, making their
Mm.
bodies, something that's important. And I'll give an example. I like to give this example when I'm talking about this subject because I think it's a very important, it's a great way to kind of demonstrate this. I used to have a client, she was like she was 4 when I first started seeing her. And around 5 years old, that's when most children become acquainted with their reproductive organs. And so she would have conversations with herself. And her mother, they were a Hispanic family, very Catholic. And so her mother was freaking out. Like she called me and was like, she's in the bathroom and she's talking and touching herself. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And she's like, no, what am I supposed to do? And I said, no, you want her to make friends with it. You want her to, be comfortable with her body in every aspect. And what you do is talk to her about when it's appropriate or how it's appropriate to, have that communion with herself. But it's important that she sees her body as an asset and that she loves it and takes care of it, because if something goes wrong, if somebody does something inappropriate, she's able to defend herself, somebody know what's going on, because she's going to protect it with everything she's got. What has happened is a lot of women, it's 1 in 3 women have been sexually abused or assaulted before the age of 16 years old. So a lot of women are very disconnected from their bodies. And we talked about religion earlier. Religion also plays a role in that, in making sex and sexuality this taboo thing. It is leaving our girls as victims. And so we have to start there in changing the narrative and teaching, young girls how to love and appreciate their bodies. Moving forward, if someone has experienced an assault, again, you can't tell a person what to do. You can make suggestions. You can let them know, hey, I'm here if you want to, press charges, if you want to, whatever you want to do. But, we have to normalize having conversations around it. We have to normalize, holding these perpetrators accountable. And part of the issue is that we have a culture, and that goes back to the patriarchy, where males are allowed to just do whatever they want with very little consequences. To them, it's seen as a sexual conquest, and they don't understand boundaries, and they don't understand that women are human beings with feelings, emotions, and they have the right to say no. We have to teach males that they're not entitled to someone. They're not entitled to someone's time, attention, or body. So, when a woman has experienced this, help her to, just give her the information. Hey, if you would like, we can go to the police. If you would like, we can go to, the hospital. If you would like, give her the choice. Don't ever tell a person what to do, because they may not have the strength, mental capacity, or ability to go through what they may need to go through if they do report. Okay. And then if they do decide, let them know, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here for you every step of the way, and try to support her, or, and allow her to decide what she wants to do for herself. And something else, like, I encourage yoga. In my practice, I teach yoga, but I use yoga as a way to help a person reconnect with their body. So dance, yoga, any type of body movement exercises is very healing, and plus therapy too. So I hope
Totally agree with the yoga. Sorry,
Thank you
Shayla,
so
did you
much
want
for
to say
explaining that
something?
too. Sorry.
Yeah.
What'd you say,
Thank you
Shayla?
so much for explaining that. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Tosin,
Well,
we wrapping it up.
yes, I think we've come to the end uh, of a beautiful, beautiful show, wonderful show. Thank you again, Sister Adwoa, for today, and thank you for all the insight.
Mm-hmm.
You have actually really opened up my mind, for example, because I'm definitely that person who, like I said earlier, I like solutions. So I'm a person who's going to be like, why don't you just leave, without actually taking into consideration the mental state of the person. So thank you very much. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you, ladies. Sister D already had to leave
Thank
us,
you.
but today was a beautiful, beautiful show. And we'll see
Mhm.
everyone again next week, same time, right?
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye.